Welcome back to Caffeine Confessionals. My name is Allan, and we're here to talk about the Challenge Ride or Dies episode 18. I'm joined by my lovely co-host. We have the Southern Luke Muncie,
What's up, guys?
the Vermontian Zoe Trimboli.
Hi, everyone.
And let me just say, episode 18, what an outrageous thing just to say out loud. This season's gone on forever. This is only part 2 of a 3-part final. Ridiculous. Despite that, I enjoyed this episode. How are you guys feeling?
It was good. I just feel like having an hour episode now and then an hour episode next week, I'm sure it's going to be an hour. It's just a slap in the face. Just condense it a little bit. Make this the finale, but they chose not to, or MTV chose not to.
I really liked it too. I giggled through most of it, honestly, which is not something that I do in general. And when you said episode 18, Alan, I was like, maybe towards the back half of the season when you start like saying like 2 episodes left, 1 episode left instead of counting all the way up, because 18 is just a high number. But yeah, I love the episode. I thought it was great.
It's just so funny because I'm stubborn and I'm gonna stick to my statement that a 3-episode final is ridiculous. But yeah, this whole hour-long episode, I was entertained the whole time. It was really good. Let's just jump into it. We come back from Olivia and Horacio's injury last week. Very sad about that. Jordan Aneesa get the slingshot done very quickly. I'm sure it took more time than that, but they just want to run through because, yeah. We then go for it.
I was just going to say, I was shocked they didn't give them goggles at that point.
I said the same thing watching it, and the only thing I can think is that production was on their ass about like if it was starting to tilt, they're like, oh, stop, like don't do it. But yeah, I could not believe that they did not give them any face protection after that. Even a baseball hat, like something.
It was ridiculous. And I think Jordan said in an interview that he made like a big fuss about how like they tried to actually at one point give them goggles during a portion, but they were like very like 4th grade science fair goggles. He's like, those aren't going to protect you if it comes back. It's going to shatter and it's going to be just as bad. And yeah, production really bad on their part. Olivia, man, like that injury hurt, but at the same time, her and Horacio have grown so much in the last week. Like they are mega stars now, which obviously you never want to get hurt. You never want something like that to happen. But they are like going to be on this show for the next 5 years, no matter what, because of that moment. Like that's going to be in people's hearts forever.
Yeah, and they seem willing to do it. Except like a lot of people have like great showings and they're like, I did it. I'm done. Or maybe not a lot of people, but rookies, I should say. But you're right. I think this propels them even further than they already were.
I'm here for it. Keep them
Same.
coming. Keep giving Horacio an exercise bike. I'm here for
it. Give Horacio an exercise bike. We transition back to Devin and Tori, who have been long gone for everyone from the last episode. They're crushing it. They're running at a good pace. They're working well together. At one point, they start talking to the cows, and I was actually worried at the beginning of this episode, like, oh my god, are we going to rely on cows for half of the commentary of this episode? It was actually kind of funny and kind of cute. It was corny, but I liked it.
Corny's a good word. I'm glad it was just like the beginning segment because really I thought they were going to do it with every team that walked by or ran by, jogged by, Aneesa sauntered.
Stumbled,
crept. Where's the thesaurus when you need it?
I really liked it. And maybe it's because that's 100% what I would be doing. Because every time I pass an animal on the road, I talk to it, whether I'm in a car or like face to face with it. I live in Vermont, there's a lot of animals in various fields that I go by. So yeah, I put myself in their shoes, and that's exactly what I would be doing to get through those however long stretches of running / meandering that they were doing.
What's your favorite animal to watch?
Like one that I see regularly?
Yeah.
Honestly, cows. I do love cows. I saw a baby cow run once, and I almost jumped out of the car.
I have no favorites. Maybe a fox, but no one was running like a fox. So, yeah.
I love watching squirrel fights. Just scramble around. Those. I had a big tree growing up where like a bunch of squirrels lived in there, and I would just watch them fight at times. It would be great stuff. All right, Back to the final. We now have Devin and Tori running into an algae-filled pool that literally, like, I watched the food eating portions of these finals. I don't really get grossed out. This grossed me the hell out because I was just thinking about like what if some of that algae accidentally slips into their mouth when they're trying to go for a breath? What if it like I don't know like the potential carcinogens? I was so grossed out of them seeing the algae on their body and just the way when they move through how everything in the water would move too. I was grossed out.
I won't even dip my toe in a pond. Like if water is that stagnant, it freaks me out. I just think it's repulsive. So once they got moving through it though, and it seemed like it was like um not as liquidy, like there was actual like stuff floating on top of the water, it didn't faze me as much. But when I was thinking about them having to get in there, it repulsed me.
That didn't do it for me. I'll talk about the food later, but yeah.
It's weird because I think I actually would, if I was there in person, it would be easier to do. But something about the visual of all the algae on them from far apart is what really hit me. Because I think like, what you don't see is like what you don't know, but just seeing it all on them, that's what grossed me out. And just thinking of it sticking, I hated it. It made my stomach churn. And Tori being like, "Oh, it's pea soup" as like a joke, and I'm just like, "Oh my god, that could have so many toxins in it." I was grossed out.
I think they were safe. Argentina, what could go wrong there?
They have to go through all this water. They have to get puzzle pieces. Then they have to go to a memorization portion, which is they have to keep running back and forth, memorize a big board across the way. There's colors, there's symbols on it. It takes like a pretty long time because eventually Banaz and Nani catch up, and eventually Jordan and Aneesa get there. It's a really difficult portion of the final. It was honestly like, if that was the final itself, I wouldn't have actually minded it.
Uh, I don't know. I feel like the finals got like a big moment, which it looks like there's going to be one next week, but there just hasn't been like a big moment so far. It's been interesting to watch. Do not get me wrong, but like nothing that I've been like, oh, they've tested their strength, they've tested their wit.
Maybe because it's all been so flat. Like I feel like there's something about a final where there's like you actually have to ascend to the championship, or like yeah, it just hasn't seemed that there's so many resting points. It hasn't seemed that grueling. Like I know they say it is, and I'm sure it is. I'm sure it's exhausting. Like it's not like they're going on a hike like All Stars. But yeah, there hasn't been like a moment with a lot of punch. And it's a lot of that too is though because they're like helping each other, and it doesn't seem they all are friends, so it's there's not enough like friction in this final.
Every time they flash like 75 hours left, 50 hours left, it's not really doing what they think. It's more like a threat to me to change the channel. Like call me when there's 1 hour left. Call me when it like actually matters. And that's how the competitors feel at times too. Like you're saying, Zoe, like they're helping each other because they know this isn't the final part. Like they can just make it, run up a mountain, memorize the code, and that's the entire final. Everything else doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They get to that memorization portion. Tori comes up big. She figures out the pattern really quickly, which is like really awesome because I think Devin is obviously known as the puzzle guy of their team. She shows up big time. They kill it. They dominate that portion.
Then a little while later, Nani cracks the code as well.
And then a little while later, Aneesa cracks the code and Jordan doesn't listen, which if you are listening and have listened, we're not the biggest Aneesa fans. We're not the smallest either. But she had every right to be angry in that moment because there's nothing more frustrating than knowing something that's going to help you, especially when you're behind and your partner's like, you're an idiot. You know what you're talking about. Only for him to come back the next round and be like, so there's a pattern. It's like, she just said that.
In this moment, she was so convinced. Oh, he was so convinced that she was just trying to be lazy, which I get on some level. Like he was just thinking she was sick of running and wasn't actually listening to what she was saying. But again, Aneesa has shown herself to be good at puzzles. This is something that she excels in. And the fact that he wouldn't even let her like try it was silly. Like, what do you have to lose at this point?
His ego. It's crazy.
Ego, frustration, and before that, when they first got to that portion and they were changing into the wetsuits, I was living for that moment. I'm not gonna lie, because she was like, "Oh my God, let's see the damage on my ankle as she's changing into the wetsuit." And Jordan is just rolling his eyes. He's not even looking at her, and she's waiting for him to look at her ankle. And she almost actually was like, hey, look, look, look." And he
And
looks
he's
over.
and he says, "Looks like a rolled ankle to me."
I was right there with him. I was like, just stop. We get it. You rolled your ankle, and all these people saying that it's Jordan's fault. There is a degree of that. Sure, it is to some degree Jordan's fault because he changed the path. It's more so Aneesa's fault because she's out of shape, and that's why she got that injury. It's not because it was some freak thing. I know people can roll their ankles, whatever, but she's out of shape. That's why that happened.
Well, and my take on this too is I've rolled my ankle countless times. It's never deterred me from like physically moving. And I know she's had surgery on that ankle. She's had issues. But if your ankle is that unreliable that something like this could happen, this show's not for you. Like,
I want to know if she does like PT when she's not on the show. Like, I maybe that's generous of me to even think that's a possibility, but like, it's hard for me to have any sympathy for her when it does not appear that she's doing any work to prepare.
It was not the most severe like rolled ankle either, and you could tell because when like they zoomed in, but they put the blur filter on the zoom in on her ankle because it really wasn't that bad. It was a pretty normal rolled ankle. It was maybe minor, maybe moderate, but it wasn't that bad. And then they showed another panned in shot of it, and the two ankles looked exactly the same. It wasn't the worst rolled ankle ever. She did roll it because it swelled up the next day. At the same time, so many of these competitors, they probably like roll their ankle or have injuries. They're just not complaining about it as loudly as Aneesa is. I mean, Anaya's knees messed up and she's running through it. Casey ran the final last season with a broken toes.
Her part,
Um,
her
Jordan
partner
fractured his leg.
exactly.
falling out of a plane, and it was entirely MTV's fault, and he still won on a fractured leg against Derek and CT. Like,
And it wasn't even like midway through the final, like it was the beginning. That's how he started his final. It was just I don't know, it killed me. And then they're going through the ocean and she's moving so slow. And Jordan was a dick, but he was saying words that Aneesa's preached over the years. He's like, you talked about wanting this for 13 years. I'm only talking about things I think you could actually do. I'm not trying to be unrealistic. And she's like, I just can't deal with someone who talks to me this way. I can't win with anyone like this. Aneesa, you didn't make a final for 13 years. You weren't winning anyway. If you're going to win, it's with someone like Jordan who keeps you honest and doesn't enable you like everyone else does in your life.
thank you.
No, I mean, I agree. And Jordan is a dick. I'm not going to say he's not. But like, it's just so funny seeing the confessionals of her saying what she needs from him. And then he gives it, just not in the cushy way she wants. And that like tanks her. Just go. And I would almost be more willing to accept Aneesa being slow if she just said, Jordan, I'm not in great shape. I'm so sorry. Can you please hold back with me? But it's this level of denial of like, hey, it's because of my ankle. No, if I went into the final right now, I'm not in the best shape. Like I might, well, I wouldn't be on the same level as Aneesa, but like I could openly say to my partner, hey, I did not train as I thought I should have for this. I'm so sorry, but like I need you to stay back. That's honesty. Honesty is not blaming it on a swollen ankle.
Yeah, I'm just so sick of her shit.
And I'm going to give credit to Nani too, because I was really worried that Nani's knee, this happened around this point because it was swollen. She could hardly bend it. I was really worried that she was going to use it as an excuse, but she was like, you know what? This is the final. Who cares if it's hurt right now? There's nothing else after this. Like after this, it's done. Go home and heal it.
Exactly.
I gotta say though, of all this final, what I really like, I love seeing good teamwork. When Devin and Tori are working well together, it's great to see. When these teams fight and bicker, it's just great reality TV, and it's like the drama we've been needing all season. Is like watching these people yell at each other, and it's what kept me going through this episode.
Well, and I think that's a testament to how low the stakes are in daily challenges. because the last team doesn't go in. If the last team had gone in, people would be fighting. But instead, it's like, we didn't win. We can just play the social game, or they've got our back. Like, there was no incentive to getting anything but first.
I think about the dailies too this season, and I feel like they didn't capitalize on the communication aspect of this ride or die theme. Like, you could have done a lot of similar challenges that they'd done throughout Rivals or done throughout X's and make these people actually have to work together and accomplish something, not just like some of the challenges, it was just the male partner who was the most athletic, or like just who was the strongest, who was the fastest, who was the most in shape, but not enough to really bring out the team dynamic.
I saw a clip on Twitter this week of like Rivals 2 where they had that trivia challenge where you have to know your partner. And I think that's exactly what we're talking about. Like, you could have had like who communicates well, but then also you get messy where people start saying things about of the competitors and like, oh, who's the most dramatic, who's the most fake. That's the stuff we need, just like that, Zoe. And I fully agree. God, we need more chaos in the challenge. We just need more messiness.
Marie and Ashley, I'm sure they'd accept the call.
God, we need them back. We get to the next puzzle portion, and Devin and Tori clear it fast in impressive fashion. TJ is just continuously impressed by them. Like, they are just so far away, like the best team in that day 2 portion specifically, and that's his final as a whole. They've just been crushing it.
I'm impressed, and honestly, like, Tori and Devin are not my number 1 pick to win. They're number 2 out of 3. That's not saying much. If they pull this out, like, I can't even be mad at it. They are literally giving it like their best effort.
Yeah, they're just absolutely crushing it. I just watching them do that puzzle, and the moment when Tori says, like, if you get married to an idea, it's fucking screw up everything else. And so, like, let's be a little flexible with our thinking here. And then that flips a switch, and they figure out the puzzle within a minute after that. That could just be editing, but like, if that's actually how it happened, that's crazy.
And
yeah, they're just firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, and Devin's someone who I previously thought had a bit of an ego to himself, but like, even when he kind of barked at Tori on the puzzle, she calmly was like, "This is not what I need," and he apologized. Like, that could have wasted time, but he knew that if I don't apologize now and say it sincerely, this could tank us. And the same thing with that puzzle, I was genuinely shocked that it was like within moments he was like, "You know what? You might be right. You might be a genius." Like, very affirming, and they got it done.
I'm glad you brought up the apology, though, Luke, because I think that highlighted their team being a level above the other 2 teams, because he's the only male part. They all the male partners were being dickheads during that portion, but he was the only one that apologized. And I think that is just a snapshot of why they're so successful in this final.
Well, and I want to say too, this might be true for Jordan, sure, but I feel like Jordan and Bananas both have spoken all season as if they're the ones carrying their partners to the final. Bananas has said all season, "I want Nani to get that win." That's an underlying assumption that she can't get it without him, which, yes, she is not so far, but like, circumstantial things have happened, of course. And with Jordan, that might be true, but you're still tied to that person. Devin sees Tori as an equal, if not better than him.
Yeah. They balance each other just so well. And I think they know that they bring out the best in each other. And I also think that this final is really tailored to them, like, as a team. It's not insanely grueling, where I think Devin's a little too hard on himself when it comes to his endurance, because again, look at the teams next to you. He has to be better than Nani. Johnny's getting older. I don't think his endurance is what it once was. And they're obviously going to be better than Aneesa. So, like, and I think Olivia's cardio before they went out, her cardio was not great either.
I did not like Johnny when Nani figured out the memorization portion. And he's like, "Oh, a broken clock is right twice a day." It's like, I know you want to play stuff for comedy, but like, she just did something impressive. Just be like, "Thank you, Nani. You're a good partner."
He's incapable. And what's crazy, I've said this last week too, so I'm a broken record at this point. All throughout the season, he was so supportive and like gave her compliments. And now it's like, oh, there's just 6 of us. Now's my time to get some camera time being funny.
I think the reality of potentially losing to Devin is starting to set in too. And I think that's why you're seeing these real parts of his personality come out, like these douchey things, because I really think his ego does not want to take the blow of losing to Devin.
That's a good point. And there's a lot of points in this final where you look at his face and you could see the age really like wearing down on him, where he's like, oh my God, I was not like, I'm used to just walking into finals and killing it. He's struggling at points. They get to that puzzle and like him and Minani had no chance. And that's something he would have crushed years ago. It's he wasn't the best at puzzles, but he was always capable. He always found a way. Wasn't happening.
He beat CT in those puzzles in that final elimination going into free agents. Like, not granted, they weren't the hardest puzzles in the world, but like, come on. CT has proved himself in years since to be a puzzle master, and Johnny beat him in that elimination.
Well, and I think too, this goes back to what I think Zoe said previously. When they got to that puzzle, Jordan and Aneesa caught up, and it was like, let's help one another, because there were no stakes. It was just, oh, we get to go to bed after this, and count that as 13 hours of the final.
Which I have to say, Aneesa and Jordan coming in second place after everything is just one of the more ludicrous things to ever happen.
Yeah, because there's no stakes, Johnny and Nany didn't have to even really sit with that. That should have felt bad. That should have been embarrassing and demoralizing. But it was not a big deal because it was just like, oh, we'll just start 3 minutes behind them tomorrow. We'll catch up to them in literally 2.
Yeah.
I took it much harder than they did. I was just like, oh, come on, Nany, come on. You can't lose to Aneesa on a bad ankle when she's walking.
Same.
Ooh, they did help them cheat. And I just thought it was great for Tori and Devin to watch them help each other, because you're like, oh, these are 2 of the 3 best male competitors in show history. These are the 2 most veteran females like in show history. They have to help each other just to be like finish 2 hours after us. That has to feel amazing.
Yeah. And once they finish, is this when Jordan and Aneesa get into it?
Yes. And she's getting, her ankle rolled up. They get into it. He even says like, well, why don't you just quit? Why don't you just like give up? Because he's kind of just testing her mentally.
I wish she would have. And this is not even like me hating Aneesa and wanting her off my screen. I wish she would have said, okay, Jordan, you can go down on the challenge wiki, whatever, that we quit the final. I wish she would have just said, okay, sure. But then again, I don't, because I know, like, I don't know, I'm conflicted. I just think that Jordan's ego needed a huge check. I get his frustrations completely. But once you're in a situation and there's little you can do about it, the correct thing is not to further berate the person, especially when you're not about to go back into competition. You're about to go to sleep. Like, reframe your mindset for the next day.
He's just such a conflict-oriented person. Like, he thrives in conflict, and I think as much as he's grown, that part of him hasn't changed. So, like, the rest of us who are, like, rational people who aren't looking to, like, sink our teeth into everyone that's driving us crazy, he can't help it. He's like, I've been holding this shit in all day, and now I'm watching you sit over there whimper, hoping that you're going to get DQ'd, because I think that's kind of what was going on. I think she was hoping they were going to get DQ'd. And so he just lost it. Because he can't.
And to this, I'm going to switch back to Team Jordan for a second. I get that Tori is Aneesa's self-proclaimed best friend, and she looked to her for like guidance. It's so smart for Tori, who feels jaded by him anyways, to say he's a horrible partner, he's not a great communicator, because that's just going to further worsen Aneesa's mindset. So like, I can understand Jordan sulking by the tree, being like, really? Like, how about you come speak to me? Which I get why she wouldn't too, because he's already in a bad mood, but I don't know. Complain about it later. On the flight home, be like, wow, he's such a dick. Not when you're still in the moment. But I agree, Zoe. I think that she really thought, let me get medical over here, and maybe they'll tell me I can't finish. That way I can say, I didn't quit. I got taken out of the game. Who knows what would have happened? We know. We're going to find out, I'm sure.
Medical looked like it's a rolled ankle. That's what they looked at it like. And something that made my brain explode was when Tori was consoling Aneesa, like, oh, you should be proud. You haven't been to a final in how long? And Aneesa said, well, it's only been this long because I get taken out right before the final. As if like that's like something she couldn't have changed herself. Like, it's like, oh, it's bad luck that I played a bad game and got thrown in. It's bad luck because I didn't win the last daily challenge and I finished in last place and went in. It's bad luck that I didn't win those eliminations because I lost to better players who actually can run a final.
And
She
correct me if
lost-
I'm
Well, I was gonna say she lost Bloodlines in a pole wrestle to Cara Maria, literally one of the only challenges she would have had a chance beating her at. And again, because she does not work at all, she couldn't even use her size to her advantage because Cara Maria actually works out and actually tries. So like her size became a non-factor against a girl with any muscle.
And correct me if I'm wrong, even on the skull seasons, when Aneesa went before the final, she already had a skull. It's not like she waited till the end to prove herself. She just had a bad social game and guys didn't want to run with her. So they said, oh, shoot, she's still here. Let's get her out. She still could have won those eliminations. Didn't she lose to Big T?
Dominated.
She's
Yeah.
always going to be an easy target for any elimination that is not purely brute strength. She's like, people are always going to want to throw her in. The only thing that protected her was Jordan.
God, I love Aneesa.
We've said a lot of mean things about Aneesa. Like Jordan, we're going to try and be much nicer throughout the rest of the episode. So we're probably not going to talk about them as much.
It might slip.
We jump into day 3. Little note, Tori's hair after 2 days looked so fucking good. I couldn't believe it.
I'm so glad you brought that up, Allan, because if you didn't, I was going to. I was like, there's never been a stronger argument for veganism than Tori entering the 3rd day of this final, because she looked so fucking pretty. Even like the night before when she's like sitting on her chair, I was like, wow, look at her skin. Like she looks so good. Everyone else looks a fucking mess. They are haggard. And Tori's like looking like a goddess and her hair is perfectly silky. Like what's going on?
That was like advertisement, like level good. Like whoever like sells her, what I don't know. It looked great. I just had to mention that. Her and Devin get a head start, and I gotta say, no head start they could have ever given them would have felt enough, which is just part of like this final and part of challenge finals as a whole.
It's like
Recently.
Well, it's like a throwback to Vendettas.
Yeah. And also Total Madness, Justice for Johnny. Or not Johnny.
Corey.
Justice for Corey, excuse me.
Agreed. Justice for Corey. The next portion is they have to run to a car which has no engine in it, and they have to physically push it. TJ Lavin had so much fun telling them there was no engine. He was laughing so hard, and he's having himself a ball in this final, just like pulling up next to the competitors on his 4-wheeler. He's just having a great time.
I think part of that is probably also that these are 6 people he's known for a really long time. So it's not just the element of watching them go through things that are causing them pain, but like he knows these people on a relatively intimate level. So it's funnier. Like imagine watching something happen to your friend versus something happening to a stranger. Like that's where he's at.
That's good perspective, honestly, because maybe I can bear his little giggles more. Because you're right. He's known these people for, I mean, Tori's debut was Dirty 30. That was a long time ago at this point. Yeah.
I think we
6
can
years
refer
ago.
to it as a cackle rather than a giggle at this point, though.
Yeah.
Definitely
just
a
like,
cackle.
yeah.
They get to the portion where they got to push the cars, and Devin and Tori, they're like, oh wait, the car that's in the middle but like on the path is stuck in mud. So let's not pick that one. Let's pick this one on the right. Very smart move. Nani does the opposite. She just accidentally touches the car in the middle, and they gotta deal with that one for the rest.
I think that was just exhaustion, like not even thinking. She was walking around it and touched it, and then it was like, oh, that's ours now. And I was like, girl.
This is a moment though when I have to fault Nani, because Johnny explicitly said, do not touch a car. And she was like, why? And TJ's like, because you have to take it. And she puts her hand down. I'm like,
I was frustrated too. I was like, Nani, stop it. I'm rooting for you, and you can't do dumb shit like this.
and I honestly feel like Jordan Aneesa got the best car because Tori and Devins was on there was no door, and it was on an incline. Like it was sideways.
It was missing the weight of the doors too. I didn't understand why Tori and Devin didn't pick that one.
Yeah, bad choice. I agree. And I gotta say, Jordan, really good car pushing form. He got really low, really good stuff. I don't know about you guys, but like I grew up with a family that had a lot of clunker cars. So like this was like one of those things where like I I'm so used to pushing cars since I was a kid that I saw this part of the final. I'm like, I was made for this. I've been pushing cars my entire life. I pushed my car like a month or two ago.
It's not as much clunker cars around here as it is. We don't have spring. We call it mud season. And so people's cars get stuck in mud, or in the winter they get stuck on ice. And so there's a lot of pushing of cars seasonally around here.
Never pushed a car. I'm ill-equipped.
It's not that hard. You just have to you got to get low and use your legs. And if you have more than one person, it's not hard at all.
Devin and Tori win this portion, or they come in first in this portion. Aneesa and Jordan and Bananas Nani are just side by side the entire time. A lot of this is just kind of slow and built up. Then they get to the eating portion, which takes the main stage. They had to eat about like 4 rolls of bread each and a big
4. I think it was like 8. It was
8
a lot
each?
of bread. It was more than 4. I know that.
You know what? Luke, I'm a big eater. I saw that and I was like, this is light work. I saw that and I was just like, this is my final, pushing cars and eating pasta and bread. Then they had a gigantic mound of spaghetti. That didn't look great, didn't look well cooked, and there was no sauce at all. So it was just completely bland. That was probably the grossest part. It was just plain spaghetti like that grossed me the hell out.
I feel like they probably did have sauce, and they thought, oh, shoot, Tori's a vegan.
They could have tomato sauce.
Yeah, but I see the meat sauce ready for it, and they're like,
Yeah. That was the most gigantic plate of spaghetti I've ever seen in my life. It reminded me of Matilda when the kid has to eat the chocolate cake. That's that level of spaghetti. That's what that felt like to me.
Well, and the thing is, if they got to rest for the night and said, hey, here's all the food you can eat tonight, they'd probably clear their plates over the course of a long span of time. Not for a race.
So one person was excited for this eating portion.
Yes, and this was one of the big differences between when they do gross food and when they do normal food. I'm always a little bit more interested when they do normal food because Nani was hyped. She's not a gross food eater, but she saw like the pasta and the bread, and she's like, "Oh, your girl could eat." And unlike Devin and Tori, who appalled me by eating with forks, she was just double fisting pasta. Like Nani and her noodles is like a long. It's been like one of the longest stories in challenge history. And in this final, when she's going for the win, she's double fisting those noodles, tossing them down her mouth as if she was like throwing them at Aneesa. It's just
Dunking them in her water.
It's like the hot dog eating championships. They dunk it in the water. She has clearly watched those. Such a smart move.
She was unhinged. Like, I could not stop laughing watching her because it was unreal. I have never seen Nani like that. I'm watching her for what, 15 years at this point almost. Like, unreal.
I know that these two are going to disagree, but oh my God, it got to a point where I was like, please, I had to mute my TV because the heaves, oh my God, I cannot handle it. And I would do the same thing. I would vomit it all up so I could have more room.
So the best part was when she's like getting down that last bite and Johnny asks, do you want to spit it into my mouth and I'll swallow it? Nani was so fucking unhinged. She thought he was serious and she was like ready to do it. And he was like, no. And she was like, whatever. Got like actually frustrated with him. And I was like, girlfriend, I know that you guys were tight, but I do not know any human being on earth that I will eat their food like a baby bird. And then for his punishment for not eating the regurgitated food, she just threw it up straight into his pocket anyway.
Projectile.
I couldn't stop laughing. I thought it was so fucking funny.
Luke is so grossed out by this, and we just loved it.
I mean, I didn't used to have a weak stomach, but honestly, last week took me out. This week, I'm just like, oh my God, somebody finish. And it wasn't even gross food. It was like something I couldn't make myself in my kitchen for dinner that night. Like, oh.
They did finish, but then they also had to eat dessert.
Chocolate ice cream.
Yeah, as soon as I saw it, I was like, you gotta make that into a milkshake, like, and drink it. And that's what Nani did. And then the other teams followed suit eventually.
And all I could think about was brain freeze.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
It looked really thick too. And that's, I was thinking, I know Devin and Tori were like purging the whole time, but I was like, eventually it's going to get really hard to swallow that food because that's a lot on your throat. That does not feel good.
They did give her vegan ice cream, so maybe I'm wrong in my thought that they had sauce ready, which was a nice touch. But also, they were probably just like, okay, we can't have Devin just eat this entire thing like the fish shakes earlier.
Yeah.
This ends with what, Nani and Johnny in the lead, then Aneesa and Jordan, and then Devin and Tori. And I'm pretty sure that's what it was because I was like, Zoe said this before we started, so I don't want to steal her idea, but I'm going to say it. I do hate that something like this can totally shift the leaderboard.
Yeah, it's lame. I don't think at this point either two of those two teams deserve to be in front of Tori and Devin. But it is what it is. That's the format of the final. If they just let them run, Tori and Devin would be done with the final by now.
Also, this is not even relevant to what we're talking about. I'll say it and we'll move on. I meant to say it earlier. When they woke up and then pushed the cars, the clock went down 12 hours. Okay, back to them finishing their food. I just want to say, 100 hours, my ass. No. But they finished the food.
I thought when they said 100 hours, it would be 100 hours of work, not including sleep. Because there's plenty of finals that have been 3 days. That's normal. It's just a weird way to market it.
They just want to do bigger and better, however they can label it, and that's what we're getting.
Yeah.
We see them running towards some helicopters, and then we get the trailer for next week, and I find the trailer for next week very fascinating. It seems like we're getting an elimination, a traditional elimination where one team is going to get purged or taken out, and we've had a purge or elimination in I think every final since War of the Worlds 1, and then there was one on Final Reckoning and then one on Vendetta. So it's just become a thing that's common, and I hate it because I think if you make the final, you should just be able to finish it, and there should be prize money guaranteed for third and second.
Yeah.
Agreed. 100%.
Watching those people just try to finish sometimes is some of the best storylines, and then just compete for second and third, it can get interesting. Whatever.
Yeah, if the third place or fourth or third place people don't finish and you want to give their money to the first place person, by all means do that. But anyone that makes that final deserves a little extra money. It used to be 10, 20,000, 25,000 for third place. That's not a big deal.
And you think of when I try to think of some of the best finals, I think of Free Agents and the subplot of Devin Simone just trying to finish to get that money. That was a great final because you had the winners going on and that plot going on at the same time. Watching Aneesa, I don't know if I have as much fun watching Aneesa as I have Devin, but them trying to finish, get some money, they deserve it. They went through the whole season.
Absolutely. Yeah, I wish it was a different example than Aneesa. Even just double agents. I wanted everyone there to get money. It's annoying.
And if anybody dares comment that how can you think Devin's a great storyline and Aneesa's not, Devin admitted she wasn't in shape.
And Devin is one of the greatest reality TV characters we've had on the challenge. She's one of the funniest, most charismatic people. She brought so much to every season she was on simply just by being herself. And again,
and not claiming she was the best.
Yeah, the self-awareness piece is what makes her likable. She knows exactly who she is on an athletic standpoint. And she just wanted to prove to herself that she could do it.
R.I.P. to Tamara the Wig.
Iconic.
They also tease, the way it looks is that, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, the way I interpret it is the last part of the final is going to be the players kind of going through every elimination they've had this season, because they had all these different eliminations set up in the arena all at once. That's what it looked like. We had the Fessy elimination. We had the one where they had to memorize stuff and dig things. I think that the players are going to have to try and run through all the eliminations as the last part of the final, which is something they did similar on the Duel 2, where they ran all the daily challenges as the final, which I think would be actually very interesting. It's in the dark. The arena looked lit up. It looked kind of cool to me.
I didn't pick up on that because I wasn't paying that close attention, but that sounds cool. It did look really aesthetically pleasing. Like we've had this whole neon theme the entire time. It was very neon.
Yeah. I'm intrigued to see how it all shakes out.
And I hate the concept of the 3-part final, but they've got me hooked. They've done a good job. They've done a good job. I'm still against it, but they've done all right. They've kept my interest.
I think it's a good testament that hour-long episodes done well are the sweet spot for this show too. Like if you structure it the right way and include the right pieces, it can be done well in an hour.
And I'm going to tell them to look back at Final Reckoning. And we even had cliffhangers, episodes without eliminations, 90 minutes, and it was fantastic. Step up your casting and do better. Thanks.
Ooh. Any other thoughts? What are we thinking going into next week?
It's weird because like I still want Nani and Johnny to win, obviously because of Nani, but like it does feel a little bitter in my mouth knowing how well Tori and Devin are performing. So I'm really curious to see what happens throughout the rest of this. Like I will always root for Nani, period, but we'll see.
But I think Zoe said this before. She doesn't root for Nani because she wants her to win. She roots for Nani because she likes her as a person. And I think that's a good, like, if she doesn't win, okay, cool.
I still love her. Like,
yeah,
it's not gonna change.
Yeah. I do think that Tori and Devin have had such an arc the past several seasons that it might be time. It seems like it's time. But I guess we'll see.
Could be Aneesa and Jordan. Who knows?
Well, there's always the chance that Tori and Devin break both their ankles, Johnny and Nani collapse, and they...
And Aneesa rides a cow to the final or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's always the chance. I don't know. Big stuff coming up, though, folks. 17 billion versions of the challenge are airing, filming, about to go to location. The show you love is not oversaturated at all. But yeah, I'm excited. February 25th, I'm pretty sure. Well, I know for a fact, February 25th, the Challenge UK will be on Paramount Plus. I'm pretty sure the Challenge Argentina will be as well that day. And
the Challenge UK is only 5 episodes, right? Or is that
crazy?
Okay.
I'm excited because I've not heard much about that. And I think that's when they're going to put Australia on Paramount Plus 2. I highly recommend. I enjoyed every single episode. The people on there were good characters who wanted to be crazy. I think production kind of toned them down, but they still let it fly at times. So, yeah.
Reality TV outside the US is a lot more unhinged.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oof. The season's coming to an end, but we got a lot coming at the same time.
Oh, Global. I almost forgot that. Global airs March, 13th?
Yeah, because it's after all those are made available because we'll have the winners from there on that show.
And I'm excited for that.
It's going to be a stacked cast. It's going to be good. It's going to be at least like, if you like the competition part of the show, you're going to see good competitors on that show.
Just hope they give them decent challenges to do.
Yes.
We got a preview of some of them at the end of the Challenge Australia. Like they showed us some of them. I was into it.
Good. I'm optimistic. You guys won't have to listen to us whine that much.
I don't whine. I tell the truth. No, I whine. It's fine.
All right, guys. You got one episode left of Ride or Dies. Make sure to come back to this channel, watch it with us, hit like on this video, hit subscribe, follow Luke on Twitter at Final Reckoning, follow Zoe on Twitter at Zoe Jimbo, follow me at the Allan Aguirre, Spotify, Apple, whatever. We love you all so much. The ones that are nice. No, just kidding, we love you all. Just have a great day, everyone.
Bye now.